Thank you very much. We welcome you to Medzone African Motives. We are going to be on economic and management sciences. So, in economic and management science, we're going to look at the economy and entrepreneurship, which is paper two. Remember, we did our paper one together in our previous presentation. So today we are going to prepare ourselves with this question paper that was written in June 2024. That is a provincial examination. So that is in relation to grade 9. So this paper is this paper took 1 hour. So for us to complete or finish this paper, the time that we have to take is just an hour. So we expected to finish this paper within an hour. So the marks or total marks is 50. And this question paper consists of 7 pages and 6-page answer book. Hope we are together on that paper. So let us be together from the start of this presentation and to the end of it. Let's quickly go to instructions and information. Here we are on instructions and information. Please go through the instructions are very important, but for the sake of time, allow me to go straight to the questions. Allow me to go straight to the questions. But you guys, please make sure that you go through the instructions. You don't attend any question without going through the instructions. Thank you. So here we are on section A, question 1. It's that all topics. So we are first going to start with matching items. We are first going to start with matching items. As the question says, 1.1, choose the term in column B. Term in column B that matches the description in column A. Write a letter A to G next to the question number 1.1.1 to 1.1.15. So in your answer book, for example, 1.1.1.6F. So that is a given example. So now let us get to our questions and try to answer or give answers to the questions on matching question. The first one, 1.1.1, says a point where the quality and price, a point where the quality and price of the demand and supply are equal. So that is a description in column A. So now we are to find out the term in column B that match this description, where we are saying a point where the quantity and price of the demand and supply are equal. So the answer there is equilibrium. So meaning to say the answer is D, equilibrium. So it's equilibrium. So we know very well that equilibrium is the point where demand and supply are equal. At this point, the quantity consumers want to buy is the same as the quantity producers want to sell. So that point, we call it a equilibrium point. So the correct answer would be is D. So now we are to write it in our answer. Answer book 1.1 is D. So now let us go to 1.1.2. The quality now, the quality that consumers are willing to buy at a certain price. So now we go to our column B, where we are looking for a term that is going to best match or the term that is suitable for the statement. So you can see that a 1.1.2, the correct answer there is C, demand. The correct answer there is demand. Demand, it means that is the quantity. Sorry, we're supposed to say quantity, not quality. That is the quantity that consumers are willing to buy at a certain price. So demand is correct answer. So that is that. We know demand refers to the quantity of goods or service consumers are willing and are able to buy at a certain price. For example, people may buy more cold drinks when prices decrease from 20 rand to 15 rand. So that is that. So now let us uh, write it in our answer book, that is C. So let us quickly now go to 1.1.3. It says free state of exports and imports within foreign countries. Free state of exports. Free state of exports and imports with foreign countries. With foreign countries. That is 1.3. So the correct answer there is globalization. It's A. The correct answer there is A, 1.3, globalization. We know very well that globalization is this interaction and the trade between countries through imports, exports, technology, and communication. So you'll find that, for example, South Africa exports fruits to Europe and imports electronics from China. So we call that LA, and I mean globalization. So the correct answer there is A. So we are to write it in our answer book. A is the correct answer. So now let us go to 1.14. Total value of goods and services of produced within country within a certain period. We're talking about the total value of goods and services produced within a country within a certain period. So the correct answer there is E, gross domestic products, GDP, gross domestic products. So you know very well that gross domestic product is the total value of goods and services produced within a country during a certain period. For example, cars produced in South Africa and services provided by South African banks contribute to GDP, gross domestic products. So the correct answer is E. That is that. So now we have to write it in our answer book. 1.14 is E. So that is that. So now let us go to 1.1.5. A system where the government make all decisions. A system where government make all decisions. So that is a planned economy. So the correct answer is B, planned economy. So mean to say our 1.1.5 answer is B. That is that. It's B. So let me write it neatly. So the correct answer, like we've said, is B. So we know very well that when you talk of a planned economy, a planned economy is an economic system where the government controls production, prices, and business decisions. So, for example, the government decides how much food or electricity must be produced. So that is a planned economy. So we have to write it under, we have to write it in our answer book. So the correct answer is D. So we are still together on that. So let us be on 1.2. 1.2 is about filling in the missing words. Filling in the missing words. Filling in the missing words. So let us be in filling in the, filling in the missing words. So that is our 1.2. So as it says, for each of the statements below, fill in the missing words and write only the correct word next to the question number in your answer book. For example, 1.26, goods. So that is that. So we are on filling in the missing words. So let us get to our questions. As it says 1.21, the dash system is the economic system used in South Africa. The dash system is the economic system used in South Africa. So South Africa use what? Mixed economy. South Africa use mixed economy. So that is that. So we know very well that when you're talking of mixed economy, that is whereby this a system combines private business with government involvement in the economy. For example, in South Africa, businesses are privately owned, but the government also provides services like education and healthcare. So the correct word there to be filled in is mixed economy. So let us write it in our answer book. So we are going to write what? Mixed economy. So that is that. So now let us go to a 1.22. 1.22 says the dash sector contributes the most to the economy. The dash sector contributes to the most to the economy. So that sector is tertiary sector. It's what? Tertiary sector. So we know very well that tertiary sector provides service to people and business. For example, teachers, doctors, banks, and shops are part of the tertiary sector. So that is why we are saying this sector contributes to the most of the economy. So now we have to write it in our answer book. That is tertiary sector. Tertiary sector. So that is that. So 1.23, mass production and specialization is found in this sector of the economy. So the mass production and specialization is found in the secondary sector of the economy. So that is secondary sector. That is secondary sector. So we know that the secondary sector changes raw materials into finished products through manufacturing. For example, you can talk of wood is turned into furniture in a factory. So that is that. So our correct answer there is secondary sector, 1.23. So we have to write it here that this is secondary sector. So now let us go to 1.24. The sector that has largely unskilled workers with few semi-skilled workers with overseen roles is called, so we want to know that sector, which is largely with unskilled workers. So what is that sector? So that is a primary sector. That is a primary sector. So we are to write here that that sector is primary sector. That is a primary sector. So we know primary sector involves extracting raw materials directly from nature. So we can talk of mining gold as well as growing maize on farms. So such sector, yeah, it has a largely unskilled workers. So with few semi-skilled workers. So that is that. 1.25, the continuous flow of goods and service between different participants in the country is called, so it's called economic cycle or circular flow model. So it's called what? Economic cycle, or it's called economic cycle or circular flow model or circular flow model. So that is that. We know the circular flow model shows the continuous movement of money, goods, and services between households, business, and governments. For example, people work for business and earn salaries, then use money to buy products from business. So that is why I say it's called economic cycle or circular flow model. So let us write it in our answer book. As you have said, it is what? Economic. It is what? Economic cycle. Economic cycle. Economic cycle, or you can say it's circular flow model. Circular flow model. So that is that. So now let us go to 1.25. Let us go to 1, 2. Oh, that is that. That is all about this 1.25. So this is our 1.25 because these are 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't know what happened here. There is something that we have skipped. 1.24. What did we say is the answer of 1.24? Primary sector. So we didn't write a primary sector. Sorry for that confusion. So sorry for that confusion. We're supposed to write primary sector for 1.24. Remember here it's secondary sector. Here it's secondary sector. So here we have said it's a economic cycle. Economic cycle or circular flow model. Circular flow model. So that is all about question 1. And then we to section A, you are to get your 10 marks. So now let us attend to question 2, section B. So here we are on section B, question 2, and we are going to do on the economy. That is the economic system. So as it says, study the following diagram on South African exports and answer the questions that follow. So now we have this diagram which talks about South Africans' major export destinations. As we can see now, we have United States, which is 8.8%. Germany, it is 8.1%. China, 9.7%. Japan, 7%. And Botswana with 3.8%. India, 4.2%. United Kingdom, that is 5.1%. And others are 54%. So that is that South Africans' major export destination. So now we are to answer the questions now that follows. Define the term globalization. We are to define the term globalization. So let us go to our answers to define that term. So the globalization now, globalization, as we are giving it defined, that is the trade and exchange of goods or services with other countries. We are saying that is the trade and exchange and exchange or an exchange of goods or services with other countries. With other countries. So that is that. So what does that mean is that globalization allows countries to trade and connect with each other through technology, through transport, as well as communication. So that is that, for example, South Africa exports minerals to China and imports machinery from Germany. That is what we mean when we're talking about globalization. So we wrote that in the wrong space. So we're not supposed to write it here. So the very same thing we're going to write it here, where we are saying is what? The trade and exchange of goods, exchange of goods or services with other countries. So that is that you've already explained that. So now let us go to 2.2. 2.2 says, which country is South Africa's largest trading partner? So you can see that if we can look at this percentage, we can see now China is the one. China is the country that South Africa that South Africa is a large trading partner with. So it's China. So the answer there is China, and we are to write that in our answer book. We are to write that in our answer book. So we are just going to write China. So as you can see, China has what? 9.7 percentage. So that is it is what? China. So China, as you have said, China buys many South African products such as minerals, agricultural goods, making it South Africa's largest trading partner. So that is that. You know, South Africa sometimes exports iron ore and gold to China. So that is that. So now let us be on 2.3. 2.3 says discuss now the impact of technology, innovation, technological innovation and globalization on types of goods and services that are exported by South African. Give 1 point with an example. So we have to give 1 point with an example. So that is 2.3. So point one, we can talk about technology. That is that because we are going to have what, let's say, point one. Point one, we're going to have what? Technology. So we can talk of technology, that technology improves production, improves production efficiency. So meaning goods can be produced faster. Meaning goods can be produced faster and at a lower cost. And at a lower cost. So that is that, for example, modern farming machines help farmers harvest crops quicker. So that is point one. Then point two, we can talk of um, technology now again. Technology improves communication. Technology improves communication and marketing, helping now business reach more customers, helping business reach more customers worldwide. So that is that. For example, we can talk of business advertise products using social media platforms. So point three, we can talk of globalization. We can talk of globalization. So with globalization, you can say globalization increases opportunities for South African for South African products to be sold internationally. To be sold internationally. To be sold internationally. So these are our answers for 2.3. So that is that. So now let us go to question 3. Uh, let us go to question 3. So on question 3, we are going to be on circular flow. We are going to be on circular flow. Question 3, it's about circular flow, like we've said. So it says study the following circular flow diagram and answer the questions that follow. So you can see now we have resource market, we have households, we have firms, we have government, we have product market. So this is what we have, and we have also a government. So the first question on 3.1 says, what is another word for resource market? So another term for resource market is a factor market. It's what? A factor market. So we can go to our answer. What is another term for resource market? It's a factor market. That is that. So you write factor market. So a factor market is where households provide resources such as labor, land, and capital to businesses. For example, workers provide labor to factories in exchange for salary. So hope you're together on that. So the second one is discuss the different flows between households and businesses in the circular flow of a closed economy. So now we have to give the difference between household and businesses. As it says, discuss the different flows between households and business in the circular flow of closed economy. So that is that. So we are to answer that question. So it means that business employ households. So we are going to say business employ households, business employ households and pay them wages or salaries. Wages or salaries. Households then use. We are going to say households, then use their income, then use their income to buy goods and services from business. To buy goods and services from business, from businesses. So that is as, for example, a teacher earns salary from school and uses money to buy groceries. That is how easy it is. So now let us go to question 3.3. Mention two types of different tax that is collected by government. So now let us be on our answer. So we are going to have income tax. We're going to have income tax and property tax. And property tax. So income tax, that is a tax paid by workers on the money they earn. For example, an employee pay tax from their monthly salary. That is income tax. Property tax. Property tax is a tax paid owned by property such as house or land. For example, homeowners pay municipal rates on their houses. So that is that. Hope we are still together, good people. Hope we are still together. So now let us go to question 4. Let us attend to question 4. So here we are on question 4. So question 4 is a price fury. Price fury. As it says, study the following demand and supply curve model and answer the questions that follow. So here we have demand and supply key rings. So that is that we can go through this diagram. As you can see, we have X and Y axis. So now let us attend to questions. As it says, name the vertical X axis or X axis. So that is when you're talking about this. That is a vertical axis or X axis. So that is a price. Vertical axis is what? It's a price. That is a price. Vertical uh, X, vertical axis or X axis is a price. So that is where we are now to come here and write it. That is price. So that is that. The vertical axis on demand and supply graph shows the prices of the products. For example, prices such as 10 rand, 20 rand, 50 rand appear on the vertical axis. So that is that. So now let us go to question 4.2. Name the horizontal axis or y-axis. So horizontal axis or y-axis, which is this one, that is a quantity. That is quantity. So that is quantity. So that is that. So now we are to write it in our answer book that this is a quantity. We are talking about what? Quantity. So quantity. So the horizontal axis shows the number of goods or products bought and sold. So that is where so for example, it may show 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is a quantity. So we'll be together on that. So let us be on 4.3. 4.3, how many key rings are consumers willing to buy at the cost of 20 rand per key rings? So how many key rings are consumers willing to buy at the cost of 20 rand? So cost of 20 rand we are talking about this cost. So how many key rings are consumers willing to buy at the cost of 20 rand per key rings? So you can see that is 9 key rings. So as you can see, we can go through here and then we go, and we go, and then we can see now that is 9. So the answer there is 9 key rings. So now we have to write it in our answer book. So we are going to say that is 9 key rings. That is 9 key rings. So that is that. At the 20 rand, the demand curve shows the consumers want to buy 9 key rings. So hope you're together on that. So now let us be on to 4.4. Identify equilibrium price. Identify equilibrium price. So we know very well that when you talk of equilibrium price, this is where demand and supply curves intersect. So you can see now demand and curve intercept here. This is where they intercept. So this is our intercept. So you can see that when you go this way, our intercept goes this way. So it simply says our equilibrium price is 50 rand. So our equilibrium price is 50 rand. So that is what you're going to write here, that it is what? 50 rand. So you just write 50 rand. So the equilibrium price is where demand and supply curves intersect. So at 50 rand, the number of carries demanded equals the number supplied. So hope we are together on that. So now let us be on 4.5. What is the equilibrium quantity? What is a equilibrium quantity? That is 4.5, equilibrium quantity. So now we have to go through our demand and supply curve and try to find out equilibrium quantity. So you can see now our equilibrium quantity is at 6. This is our equilibrium quantity because it goes straight to the equilibrium, and it goes straight to equilibrium price there. So equilibrium price we've said is 50. So equilibrium quantity now is what? It's 6. So that is that. So we are going to write it there in our answer book that the equilibrium quantity is 6. So that is 6 key rings. That is 6 key rings. So that is that. The equilibrium quantity is the quantity bought and sold at equilibrium price. So that is that. So that is all up for question 3. That is all for question 3, and you are to get your 20 marks for this total section B. So now let us be on section C, question 3. So we are on section C, question 5, sorry. So that is entrepreneurship. So the question that you just did was question 4, sorry, not question 3, question 4, price theory. So now we are on question 5. That is sectors of the economy. Sectors of the economy. So let us be together to do these sectors of the economy. So as it says, study the following extract from investec.com on how load shedding in South Africa is affecting different economic sectors and answer the questions that follow. So now this is what you're going to read. This is our extract, which talks about the impact of load shedding. The impact of load shedding. It says, according to the latest Reserve Bank, it reads as follows. According to the latest Reserve Bank estimates, load shedding had negative impact on 2.15 on the quarterly gross domestic product in the third quarter of last year. With agriculture, forestry, and fishing impacted the most. Estimates for the fourth quarter have not been yet released, but the impact may well be higher given a load not being released or given that load shedding occurred on all but 3 days during the final quarter of the year. So recent news has partially revealed the impact on the economy and specific sectors, especially when stage 5 and 6 load shedding has been implemented. So we have 2.1% negative impact of load shedding on question 3 2022 gross domestic products. So now we are to answer the questions that follows as 5.1 says, describe the type of jobs or careers that are found in each of three sectors of the economy and include the example of each. And include example of each. Include example of each. So that is that. So now let us go to our answer book. And for that question, 5.1. So it says describe type of jobs and careers that are found in each of three sectors of the economy and include an example of each. So we are going to have a primary sector. We have primary sector, and with primary sector, the examples that we have there under primary sector is farming. That is, we're going to have a farmer, falls under primary sector. We are going to have fisher. We are going to have hunter. We're going to have hunter. And as well as minor. So this falls under primary sector. Then we have secondary sector. We have secondary sector. Secondary sector. So the examples under secondary sector are manufacture, we have food processors, we have food processors, and we have engineers. And engineers. So that is that. So we also have tertiary sector. Tertiary sector, we have bankers. Then we have doctors. Then we have as well and teachers. So that is that. So these are types of jobs or careers that are found in each of these three sectors. So we know under primary sector, this is whereby we are talking about it extracts raw materials from nature. But with secondary sector, that is where we are saying this sector process raw materials into finished goods. But when you're talking about tertiary sector now, this is where we are saying this sector provides service to people and businesses. So that is that. So now let us be on 5.2. 5.2 says explain load shedding according to your own understanding. Load shedding. So we have to explain the load shedding. So load shedding is the control that is load shedding. We can say load shedding is the controlled is the controlled or deliberate power cuts off. That is deliberate power cuts of specific areas or customers for certain period of time or customers for a certain period of time. So that is that when we're talking about what? A load shedding. So now let us go to 5.3. So 5.3 says, according to the case study above, the mining, forestry, and agricultural sectors are mostly impacted by load shedding. Discuss why and how these sectors specifically are mostly affected by load shedding. So that is that. So we are going to talk about mining, forestry, and agriculture. That is 4.3. So I say these industries are often rely on energy intensive machinery and equipment. So agriculture is mostly based on so what I was trying to say mining, this is whereby we're talking about mining, farming and factories use large machines that need electricity. So we're saying mining use large machines, use large machines that need electricity, that need electricity to operate. For example, mining machines stop working during power cuts, so that is that. Then we have agriculture. So with agriculture, is that agriculture depends on electricity for irrigation. Agriculture, or not agriculture, but let us be on forestry. Let us be on forestry. So let us be on forestry, not agriculture for now. So the impact on forestry can be production delays. We can talk about production delays. Production delays because forestry company use electricity because forestry company use electricity machines um for cutting timber, for drying wood, for processing paper pulp. So when electricity goes off, machines stop working and production slows down and the deadlines are going to be missed. So you're talking about the production delays as we are saying forestry companies use electricity for cutting cutting timber for drying wood. So also for processing paper pulp. So whenever electricity goes off, it means machines are going to stop working and production is going to slow down. So many to say we are going to miss the deadlines. So now let us come to agriculture now. Let us come to agriculture. So with agriculture, we know very well that agriculture depends on electricity. Agriculture depends on electricity. Agriculture depends on electricity for irrigation, also for refrigeration, also for refrigeration and storage. And storage. So that is that. So, for example, if farmers may lose fresh produce when the refrigerators stop working, so that is that. So now let us be on question 5.4. Let us be question 5.4. Question 5.4 says study the following pictures and indicate which sector of the economy is represented by each picture. Represented by each picture. So that is that. So that is that as we are. So we can see picture one now. Picture one, the picture one is all about services. That is a tertiary sector. As you can see that the picture one is what? Tertiary sector. As you can see, this is where the services are provided. This is where the services are provided. But picture two now you can see also it is still what? Tertiary sector. Still tertiary sector. Because picture two also the service delivery. As you can see now, this is a hotel. So as you can see, this is a hotel. So this is where the services are provided. So that is that. Picture three. So the picture three also it is as well what? A tertiary sector. So picture three is what? A tertiary sector as well. It's what? Tertiary. It's a tertiary sector. It's a tertiary sector. So that is a picture three. So people providing what services. You can see these people are before their computers. So they are providing what? The services. But let us go to picture four. Picture four, you can see now this is a secondary sector. Picture four is the secondary sector, manufacturing and processing activities. If you can look clearly onto these picture you can see now this is a manufacturing where goods are being manufactured. So that is picture four. Picture five is a primary sector. It's a primary sector. That is picture five. Picture five is a primary sector. So that is that. Where extraction of raw materials from nature. So that is that. So picture six. So this is picture six. This is picture six. So picture six also is what? Tertiary sector. It's a tertiary sector because you can see this is what? A transport, and you know very well that the transport provide what? Services. So that is that. So in our answers now, that is how we are going to write them. That picture one is a tertiary sector, and picture two is a tertiary sector, and picture three as well is a tertiary sector. But picture four now is a secondary sector. Picture five is a primary sector. And the last one is a tertiary sector, picture six. Tertiary sector. So this is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Make sure that you make use of this presentation for you to prepare for the coming June exam that you're going to write. Thank you.